lot of people who are fad dieters or previous fad dieters and trying to figure out how just to eat like a normal human instead of carnivore or juice cleanses or whatever garbage people are doing these days.
Today's episode is brought to you by Andy Bovender, who is the team lead of the Bovender team out of the Carolinas. Now, if you have anybody who's thinking about buying or selling a property out in that area, definitely give him or his team a call. Today, I sit down with Coach Josh Wood, and we talk about all things fitness. Not only fitness, but the nutrition components and even some of the rest components that all back into how to be a more productive agent. Now, you've heard me talk about it before on other episodes, but if you're curious to learn more about the inner circle group and how to be added to that wait list, scroll down and add your name to the link in the description below. And as always, I'm your host and San Francisco referral partner, Shawn Kunkler. Josh, thanks for doing this today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
To get everybody up to speed super quick, in a couple sentences, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm Josh Wood, most often known as Coach Josh. I live down here in Tasmania, Australia. I don't hail from here originally. I'm from the Midwest. But I've been in health and fitness in a number of aspects for something like 15 years now.
Wow.
I do a lot of education, teaching the personal training courses. I taught massage courses before that. These days, I primarily work one-on-one with clients through my online coaching platform, and then do a bit of education and public speaking on the side.
So what inspired you to move from the Midwest to Australia?
My wife. Yeah, she's Australian. So I met I went overseas when I was 18, bought a backpack, one-way ticket to the UK, and just went wandering. Ended up in Edinburgh, Scotland, met a cute Australian girl, and that was in 2007. And so I've been in Australia since 2008.
Oh my gosh, good for you. And I'm assuming all your family's still back in the US, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a someday dream. So Cielo, my partner, she has an Australian still citizenship.
Really?
And so yeah, I think someday we may consider it.
Where's she from?
She was actually born in the Philippines and then has citizenship there and then moved to Australia about 10 years old and then was there for a handful of years before moving to the US.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I mean, if you make it to Tasmania, I can show you a lot of cool wilderness.
I love it. I think you're actually the first person I've ever talked to from Tasmania. So it's pretty cool. It's so random. Like doing this podcast, I have like this amazing honor and privilege to talk to people, but not only talk to them in real time, but literally anywhere in the world. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best part of the internet. Like I've met so many cool people just through the internet. I mean, geez, man, I've met so many good friends just through like social media, internationally. I met a guy up in Canada a few years back. My wife and I went over there for a couple of years to live on Vancouver Island. I did a lot of hiking and backpacking before the kids, and eventually worked as a wilderness guide. But when I was over there, met a guy through like backpacking posts and hiking. And he's like, hey man, if you come through this area, let's go for a hike. A year later, we spent 6 weeks in the Himalayas hiking. Like
Crazy.
You can do everything on the internet.
You have an adventure gene, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I ended up here.
It sounds like it. Yeah. And it's cool with what you're doing now with teaching people health, fitness, nutrition, and just good, healthy habits. It's all online. And so you're able to literally have clients in any pocket of the world. Tell me more about that. Like what is specifically the coaching that you're doing?
So, I mean, it's tricky because people think going to the gym is about going to the gym. So I help people with their health and fitness, but my branding is strong for life because my goal is to help get people strong to undertake the things they want to do in life and to be strong for life. So it's always this real world application. Yes, you're going to have to lift weights and whatnot. But the focus is how do you keep doing what you love as long as you love to do it? And so the people I work with are like an interesting sort of split across the world, US, Canada, UK, Indonesia, New Zealand, India, everywhere. Um, but the idea is like, yeah, a lot of these people want to lose some weight. A lot of people want to get a little bit stronger. But the idea is like, well, why? A
Yeah.
lot of people are parents. A lot of people have public facing jobs and they need to have a presence about them.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between a guy in a suit who's 50 pounds overweight and a guy who's built like a Dorito in a suit, broad through the shoulders, narrow through the waist. And so I work with a lot of professionals, especially men, who are like, I need to fit my suits better. I'm in front of a lot of important people and I need to look the part of a leader. And so there's that application.
Mm.
And the other sort of niche that I work with is a lot of, because I used to work as a wilderness guide. I do a lot of work with like backpackers, wilderness guides, and tactical athletes. So fire, military, police, prison guards, that kind of thing. So there's that application. So it's like this application towards, being a strong, capable parent or a professional leader or something that's a very physically demanding, potentially dangerous job as
Yeah.
well. And so there's always this like, what are you doing with your life, and how do I arrange your strength training and your nutrition and your lifestyle habits to make sure you can keep doing that and doing that well as long as it's possible. So focusing on health span.
Man, that lands for sure. Um, Post COVID or during COVID, I've always been into health and fitness, and during that, I got more into eating and not moving.
Yeah.
And then one day, me and the boys, we took the skateboards out, and I was like winded, and my knees hurt, and I was like, dude, no, like absolutely not. If we're doing a hike or something, I am not going to be the liability. And that was immediately that was my motivator. And I was like, all right, we're clearing out the garage and building a gym. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of people did that. And, you know, with the people I work with, maybe 60% of them just train from home. I've got a lot of like stay-at-home moms who just have like real simple, a couple dumbbells and some bands in their living room. And then I've got a bunch of guys with these super elaborate like garage gyms that are awesome. I train out of my garage most of the time. Although I do some work in a gym, but I mostly just like my own space. And
Yeah.
like you don't need a lot, and you just need a little consistency and some good planning, and you can achieve so much with just the most basic setups.
I completely agree. I didn't set out to build a home gym directly. I similarly, I started with bands. I started with TRX, started
Yep.
with really basic stuff. And then I was like, well, I'll buy a power rack. Well, I'll buy a police system. Well, I'll buy a treadmill.
Nice.
just, and then it just kind of kept going and going. But for me, being an entrepreneur is time. Like time is
Mm,
money. And you actually mentioned before we started recording being time poor. And it totally resonated with me because me getting in my car, driving to the gym, 30 minutes there, doing, let's say, an hour workout, 30 minutes back, that's 2 hours.
yeah.
And now I can save literally an hour by walking downstairs and
Yeah.
and then having a more efficient workout or doing superset or just changing out my workout to be more efficient. I can gain that time somewhere else. Um, and so that was I had that why to not be a liability, and then I
Yeah.
had the pressure to not have the excuse of not having the time.
Yeah, exactly. It's such an interesting thing because, people in our situation, people with kids, people with
Yeah.
busy jobs, whether you're running your own or working for someone else, time is such a massive factor there. But time is sort of just it's a proxy for convenience. Like when
Yeah.
the gym is
Yeah.
in your house, and this is one of the reasons like I've worked in gyms for over a decade, but I still rarely train in them unless I've got time between a couple clients. And I don't train a lot of clients in person anymore. They're mostly boxing clients these days.
Mm.
But it's like I got gymnastics rings in my office here, so I do a lot of that stuff. I do a lot of like maces and clubs and weird stuff too. And then like right below my office is the garage, and I got my gym there, like everything you could ever need. And when you have whatever you like to do, and whatever is available and whatever you know how to use, and it's right there. The number of excuses you have, oh, I don't have time. It's like you don't need time. You just, like you said, you just save yourself an hour a day.
Yeah.
I mean, where do we have an hour a day that's not already full? So if you can save that, that's just one massive excuse out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, I mean, you've obviously been in it for a while, is once you get into the groove of doing it, it's the excuses kind of dwindle, and then it becomes weird. You actually feel more weird not doing it than doing it.
Yeah.
Like you feel bad when you're like, oh, I totally am going to miss a workout today. Like my schedule got sideways. I got to run around. I'm just not going to have the time. And you actually feel worse about those missed days.
Yeah.
Is that what you find with the people that you're working with? Do you find that the bulk of them just are doing it at home for the time factors? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or they either work from home or they're, parenting and they're at home anyway and they can't get away. And so it's like this idea of like, oh, I have to get a membership and drive for however long to get there. And then I have to work out for X amount of time. And I have to drive back, shower, and then I have to go do whatever. It's this big, and whether or not the time is an actual barrier or it's a perceived barrier, like it's just so much extra. Yeah, usually. But it's like all these other things that you have to do around the travel.
Yeah.
But and like I've got a couple of ladies that I work with who are entrepreneurs. They run their own businesses from home, and they manage it around children. And one lady in particular has 4 kids, and she runs a marketing, copywriting sort of business, so she can do everything from the computer.
Yeah.
And the idea of going to the gym and like putting on the clothes and getting there and figuring out what to do with 4 kids, like it's a massive thing. And like, yeah, it can be done. And if you're David Goggins, there's no excuses. But the reality of it is that's just more fatigue. That's just more mental stress. But now that we're like, no, you just couple bands, couple dumbbells. In the last 6 months, she lost 30 pounds. Like
that's amazing.
Good for her. It's wild. And it was just a matter of like, okay, we just do a little bit now. We add a little bit to that. We add a little bit to that. We tweak your diet a little bit. A month later, we tweak it a little bit more. And you can stair step it a lot better because there's so fewer barriers to making something happen. Like minimum effective dose at the gym still takes that hour of transit if you have to drive 30 minutes. Getting the minimum effective dose at home, well, you're already there. You don't have to wear anything special. You just have to pick the thing up off the floor, move it around for 15 minutes. That was 15 minutes instead of 15 minutes plus the transit, plus the cleaning up, plus the changing your clothes, all that jazz.
It's totally true. I remember, again, like I felt way out of it. Like I worked for health clubs, I ran martial arts schools. Like it was very much, fitness was very much my life. And then COVID happened and I stopped going to the gym and all of that. But then as I started to get back into it, probably for the first couple of weeks, I was like, I don't care what the workout is. I don't care the duration. I don't care the resistance. I don't care about any of that. I only care if it's fun. Like I just want to associate this as fun. And then once it started to like become the habit, then I was like, all right, now we're going to start working towards goals. But at the beginning, it was just similar to your client. It was like, you just got to start. You just have to, you can build on it later, but you got to just get the pieces moving.
Yeah. And that's where he's like, we just sort of talked about that perceived barrier. We think there's so much that you have to do. You have to do so much to do so much, but it's like, no, you just literally have to do anything. Yeah. And then next week, another minute or two. The week after that, another couple minutes, and it just stacks up. And all of a sudden, you're hitting, 3 to 4 hour-long workouts across the week without even thinking about it. And then you start to feel bad if you miss them because your body is actually doing what it's meant to do.
Yeah, I mean, you just feel. I know I feel so much better. I feel so much better. It's funny, people on my team, because they know my routine. They know I get up in the morning, I hop on the treadmill. They know at night I hit the weights. Like it's just like we'll have conversations about it in regular meetings. It just like comes out. And then some people on my team will be like, "Hey, I hit a new PR today," and it becomes like you get a new community around it, and then when you start getting that support, it's this new momentum. But kudos to your client who dropped 30 pounds.
Oh yeah, I mean,
That's amazing. She must feel just so much, just great about herself, and just
yeah.
feeling lighter.
Oh yeah, she's just always talking about how good she feels. She's always like, "Oh, it's hard, and how do I find the time?" I'm like, "Just do this one thing." And then the next week,
Yeah.
it's like, "Just do this one thing." And then all of a sudden, she's like, "Yeah, so I'm like 30 pounds down, and I feel amazing all the time. Is this right?" It's like, "Yeah." And
Yeah,
it's like
congrats.
the
Welcome to the
conversation
club.
I always have with these clients, who kind of finally like it clicks, and they finally see like, "Oh, this is how I'm supposed to live." And it's always this conversation around like, and I'd been putting that off for 10 years, or I've been putting that off for 20 years. It really wasn't that hard. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
mental barriers. Like, you just think you have to do so much to see so much, but it's like, no, it's just consistency, little amounts over a timeline, and boom, it just falls off, and you feel good, and life's better. And it's like, they always come back to, man, I wish I did this earlier.
Yeah. 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 It's true. I mean, for most things in life, you're like, I wish I just started a little bit sooner than I had.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Actually, I got a question for you, real quick. You mentioned you ran martial arts schools. What martial art?
The schools were Choi Lei Kung Fu. It was,
Ah, right.
and then we had the other leg of it was Tai Chi Chuan, but
Yep.
I was a really good beginner or intermediate in that, but I didn't get a black belt in Tai Chi. I
Yeah,
just
cool.
had too much ADD, man. The Kung Fu satisfied like that the
Yeah.
aggressive movement, but the Tai Chi was it was like I was younger. I was in my 30s, but it was a very
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
pace for me.
Yeah. So bit of a side note. So I've been in combat sports since I was 17. So
Oh
mixed
wow.
martial arts, jiu-jitsu. I competed in boxing. I'm firmly in my old man jiu-jitsu phase now.
Nice.
Um, but my undergrad was a Bachelor of Health Science with a major in traditional Chinese medicine. Uh,
Really?
yeah. So as part of their movement practices from a therapeutic standpoint, you had like qigong and
Yeah.
tai chi as part of the medicinal practice. Like, this is the movement practice as part of this holistic health system.
That's very
So I'm
cool.
so I'm always very very interested into what martial arts and combat styles that people do.
So I mean, this will date me a little bit, but this is back with phone books.
Yep.
So I grew up in Connecticut, and I just really wanted to live in a city, and I really wanted to study martial arts, and found my way to San Francisco. And then I remember cracking open the phone book, and there was an ad for this martial arts studio, and the master of the school also practiced traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, and I was
Yep.
like, that's the school I want to go to. Like, he knows how to take you apart and he knows how to fix you. And so the cool part was the cool and uncool is we'd get a lot of injuries, as you know, but you'd go to the office and you would get he would give you acupuncture, but then I was the pain in the ass who'd be like, hey, why'd you put that needle there? Why is it that deep? Why'd you do this? Why'd you? And then he like one day just handed me the needle and he's like, put it right there.
Yeah.
And like indirectly taught me how to do it. And so that
Yeah.
was a
It's the
really,
other side of that coin for particularly Chinese arts.
yeah,
It's two sides of the same coin. You're working on the same systems through movement or through manual therapies.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a very very interesting thing, and I'm very familiar with the injury situation being involved with martial arts and combat sports because I'm 3 months out of having my pec reattached. So I'm
Oh,
just
geez, man.
yeah, I had it tore off back in October, and I
Oh,
had it reattached in
oh,
November, and I'm sort of yesterday was the first time I did a dumbbell press in many months. I'm like just finally able to move
jeez.
properly.
How was that press? Were you just like totally terrified?
No, it's okay. Like, I've been slowly working up to it with like incline push-ups and some band work. Like, I tore it at jujitsu, and
Really?
yeah, and I was back on the mats, uh, 2 weeks after surgery, training in a sling for like the last 3 months, And so just this last week was the first week I didn't have one of my arms in a sling while I was training. So
Jeez.
I've been as active as I could be for as much time as I could make.
That's crazy, man. I bet the other side though is like your positioning is probably way better.
Yeah,
Your
it's
all
wild.
your chokes and grabs on the other side are just
Oh,
like
they're great. I have
so
like this like one
dialed.
lobster claw now. It's just like this one arm that's like way stronger and like more defined, and this other like limp noodle that's not used to doing anything.
I similarly we had a school, there was a federation, and there was um a school in Italy, and so a handful of Italian students came over and they came to the class. And at that point, I was like pretty high ranked, and my teacher was like, "Oh, you two spar together," and he looks at me and he's like, "Just go super light, just kind of like a warm up round." But the other dude didn't speak English, and my teacher's like, "Go," and boom, I got hit so hard, like I buckled down to one knee, but it wound up bulging a disc and putting pressure on a nerve,
Oh,
and my whole left side, my pec, my lat, my shoulder, it all shut down and atrophied. Like it was
yeah, wow.
like it was tiny, and
Mhm.
man, similar to you, but the rehab on it was like not only to I had to like get the bulge to go back, take
Yeah,
the pressure off the nerve, then I had to rebuild the muscles, but oh dude,
yeah,
it was brutal.
yeah. That's I mean, honestly, the nervous stuff is even harder, because if you don't like if it's impinged, like
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. In my case, it's a very strange thing when I had this tear because we weren't sure what happened, and I went to the emergency department, and they're like taking an X-ray of my shoulder joint, and they're like, "Yeah, it looks fine. Put this in a sling. Go to your doctor if nothing gets better." And I finally get home, and I like take off my rash guard after being in it for 6 hours, and I look at my arm, and there's like this bulge at
I
the
was gonna
top of my
say,
bicep here, and
yeah.
I'm like, this isn't right. And it's this weird thing, like when there's a muscle that you're used to using, and all of a sudden it's not attached, you get this like it's a weird feeling because you try to do something like even pressing my hands together, so internal rotation and adduction, like there was just nothing. It was like you're trying to turn on this switch, but the power's not on. Like you just all of a sudden have
Yeah.
lost this motor of movement, and you just couldn't do certain things. And so there wasn't really any pain after the initial tear and stuff. It was just like doesn't work. There's no longer a moving part there. And a big part of the healing process is when they reattach it, they have to drill holes into your humerus bone, and they have to like stitch the tendon into that. And a big thing is like you don't know when that tendon has regrown. You just kind of are on like a vague timeline, and you kind of have to just test it and hope it's attached. And so I've been
Jeez.
pretty cautious, but I'm also impatient and live like a shark. If I stop moving, I die. So I've always been sort of testing it, being very careful, but always trying to move after
Yeah.
the initial few weeks in the sling. And it's such a setback because I think guys like us, and I mean, like we live a certain way. Like if you run a business, if you run a family and all that, you're a busy person trying to accomplish a lot of things. We're driven people, and so it's like all of a sudden part of your body doesn't work. Well, what do? Do you stop doing? No, you put it in a sling and you do what you can with the other side, or you
Yeah.
you, you make it work. And it's been a very educational process because I've been injury ridden this whole last year, and I've had to keep
Jeez.
adapting and adapting and adapting, and yeah, it's an interesting life experience.
Yeah, I think that's with that. There's definitely certain people with certain they have just a certain DNA, and it's some people get an injury and they're like, "That's my cue to stop," and then other people are like, "Oh, that's my cue to work harder on something else, work smarter, work around it."
That's right.
Yeah, it's funny. Like as you were sharing that, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I competed at tournaments with like broken thumbs, broken toes." Like broken a couple days prior broken, and you're like, well, I'll use my left hand more,
Yeah,
or I'm going to switch my stance so I can protect it. Just like you just you'll just figure something else out. But
that's
that's
right.
and I was joking with you with your jujitsu, like you break your I always used my left leg as my front kick was basically my jab, and I broke my
Yeah.
toe. So then I literally switched my stance and used my right, but then my right got really good. And so it was always a blessing in disguise of like something else that I was training and working on got super, super dialed because I had to use other tools. And so,
Yeah, and you have to sort of fill in the gaps,
yeah,
and it's the same with any challenge in any aspect of your life,
it's true.
family, business, fighting, whatever it is. It's like, okay, well, this doesn't work anymore. I have to find another way around it. And then you get stronger in some other aspect.
Yeah. And it really goes back to your point earlier about the person who gets into wanting to work out when you have that why, that other thing that's like you can only go so far if you're being pushed, but when something's pulling you, it will pull you through that hard stuff. Like
Yeah.
I mean, even your vocabulary as you're like, I'm a shark, I can't stop. Like I have to keep going. It immediately translates when you're like, oh, I have a sprained finger, and you're like, I'm a shark, I got to keep going. Like
Yeah.
I'll deal with this later, and you just keep moving, which I think is it's everything's got, to your point about Chinese medicine, it has another side of the coin, and it's like if you use the tools right, they will motivate you and compel and propel you very far.
And it also goes back to earlier when we were saying, perceived barriers, perceived challenges.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like, yeah, like, okay, I literally can't use my arm, or you've got a bulged disc and you've got all this nerve stuff going on. And, it's like, well, is that like, it's a challenge, but is it really a challenge, or is it an opportunity? And it's a perceived thing. It's like, I could use this as an excuse to not do something, or I could use it as a
Yeah,
springboard to do something cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's always. Um, I was recently listening to Tony Robbins, and he said it's the difference between saying life is happening to me and life is happening for me. And
Yeah.
when you shift and you look for that, there's an opportunity within this, and I just need to I just need to dig around and find it. And it's like, yeah, the opportunity is to work on work on being on the mat and being on your back, and really like just working on a whole different set of things that you normally wouldn't have done because now you're compromised. And that's the reality. Like if you're carrying a grocery bag or your child and you get attacked, the reality is you don't have that side to use anyways. And so you realistically have to develop it. And so now your life's just compelled you to do it in a unique way. And so it just, to your point, it depends on how you want to view it.
That's it. That's it. It's all our own mental constructs.
It totally is. And that's the hardest part of, honestly, like martial arts, fitness, nutrition. That's 100% the hardest part. It's, it's whatever that story is that you're telling yourself over and over and over.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said earlier, it's like you kind of reach a point where you're like, I don't want to be a liability. Like if I didn't have an arm, would I just sit at home all of a sudden?
Yeah.
No.
Well, yeah, and you have kids. It's like, well, okay, so yeah, it's like my arm's compromised, but I still need to provide for them. I still need to be a protector to them. I still need to be their dad for them. And so it's like, yeah, there's just something does shift when you change
Yeah.
that conversation in your head. It's again, it changes it from that push to the pull.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Let's talk about nutrition. I know that's one of the big people get into fitness,
Yeah.
as you know, and they try to outrun a bad diet, and they can't. And then they slowly figure out that they have to then work on the nutrition part. Um, but what do you see on your side as that big challenge?
Well, a lot of the stuff I do with clients, a lot of it's really goal dependent. So some people want to lose weight, some people want to build up muscle mass, get a bit stronger. Um, some people aren't too fussed about that stuff, and they just want a healthy coping mechanism or, a healthier lifestyle. So like I do prescriptive nutrition stuff, looking at calories and macros specific to physique changes,
Hmm.
build muscle, get leaner, whatever. But a really big focus around a lot of the health education work I do is sort of reframing our relationship with food. I'm not dogmatic about diet. Like, I usually get a lot of people who are fad dieters or previous fad dieters and trying to figure out how just to eat like a normal human instead of carnivore or juice cleanses or whatever garbage people are doing these days. Instead of just like, where's the middle ground? Where is something that is sustainable, that has nothing to do with dietary dogma? And so I look at more so our relationship to food and how we use it for general health, and then how do we model that for the people that look up to us, so our kids, our coworkers, friends, family, community. So I have this system called eating like an adult.
Hey, real estate pros, be honest. You know you should be using video, but maybe you feel awkward, don't have the time, or just aren't seeing the results. This is where Kim Rittberg's Video Bootcamp comes in. This live coaching program helps agents create high quality videos quickly and confidently, resulting in leads and clients. Her students have seen results. One landed 3 new clients directly from social media, and others brought in millions of dollars in closed sales. Spots are limited, and to apply now, follow the link in the description below.
And that's the TEDx talk I did last year, was going through the 6 habits to eat like an adult. And like that talk, and then I have a free guide that just lays that out as an infographic. But that habits are useful, but the core concept is this: if you're an adult, you need to understand that your outcomes are directly related to the decisions you make today. And so any decision you make, you need to take ownership of those outcomes, and especially with food. And the idea is like, okay, a lot of adults are living off of childhood eating habits that they got from their parents, or this teenage rebellion of, like, oh, I can do whatever I want, I'll eat whatever I want, you can't tell me what to do stuff. And it's like, you're 45, like, grow up. So the idea is like, you have decisions to make, and if you want certain outcomes, you need to make the decisions that lead to those outcomes.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that for yourself, you need to do it for those that are learning from you. Like, if you can't motivate yourself intrinsically and say, I need to do this for me, well then, okay, look at the little people that are looking up to you and learning from you. Like, so many parents will eat one way and try and feed their kids another way. They're like, oh, that's not good for you. No, you shouldn't drink that. You shouldn't eat that. But then when the kids aren't around, or even when they are around, they're like, but I'm going to drink 2 liters of Coke and a 6-pack of beer and eat a birthday cake for fun on a Tuesday. Like, just nonsense and garbage, but then they wouldn't want that for their kids. And it's like, well, then why would you want that for yourself? And why would you expect them to do anything different if they're watching you?
It's very true.
Yeah, so it's a lot about just learning to take ownership and understanding like what kind of behavioral changes around food are going to have a lasting impact for us and our children.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree. I mean, I think it's easy. It's almost like the kids they wag the dog. They in a sense, because they can become so picky about what they eat, but then that becomes the food in the house, and then it's around, and then the kids have influenced the parents as to what the dietary choices should be, and then it just kind of sticks. Yeah. And I mean, you're obviously in Australia and I'm in the US, and I don't know what the dietary differences are, but the typical US diet is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's very similar here. I mean, it's very much influenced by American companies and American media.
Yeah.
But it's similar. It's just more expensive, and the portions are slightly smaller. But we have very similar obesity rates and overweight issues. And this is, this was the framing of the talk I gave. It started from looking at the study that came out early last year, and as of like 2022, obesity is a bigger world health risk than hunger is. Like, we have more obese people than hungry people. There's more people that are going to kill themselves from eating too much than there are people who are going to die from not eating enough in the world, which is just a wild thing if you think about the history of humanity. Like, when have we had so many available calories that people can eat themselves to death regularly and more frequently than starving?
That's crazy to think about.
It's a wild thing to think about. And when you look at the stats, like obesity, childhood obesity rates quadrupled since 1990. Something like 37 million kids under 5 that are overweight across the world. It's like, how does a kid under 5 end up overweight? Their parents.
Yeah.
There's no other way around it. And that's where the whole talk was sort of coming out of, this idea that, like, there's something very wrong with how parents are modeling for their kids. And this isn't exclusive to the West, but it's primarily in the West. Although India is one of the most rapidly growing obesity rates and diabetes rates in the world too. It still doesn't cap most of the West, and it's prevalent in every Western nation. So we have some issues, obviously, with food culture and food environments, obviously making some things easier than others. But when you go around and you see, and I saw this more in the US, but you do see it here too. You go around and you see, like, single digit kids drinking bottles, like sippy bottles full of Coke.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Like, come on. Like, nobody is going, this is a healthy choice. It's just the idea that someone would think that that's a good thing is mind blowing.
Yeah. I mean, aside from the sugar, the caffeine, it's
right.
Like you're just exhausting their adrenal glands right out of the gate.
It's wild.
And that has an impact on the brain and its development.
On everything.
And then if there's red dyes, like it's like, Jesus. Yeah. But
well, hopefully there's going to be less red dyes in the US, which will lead to less red dyes over here soon.
Yeah. When do you think that'll actually take effect?
I don't know. Everything's going to be, someone's going to fight it. Someone's going to be like, no, we need the red dyes. It's like,
yeah. Or they're like, you know what? We'll change this one molecule, and it's
actually a pink dye now.
It's burgundy. And you're like, God damn it, you guys. Yeah.
Hopefully there's some changes.
Man, I was very blessed, very lucky to have had a hippie mom who was a vegetarian before I was born and went to health food stores and fed us vitamins. We never had soda in the house ever. And so I honest to God cannot tell you the last time I had a soda. It just wasn't.
Yeah, right.
It just wasn't around. And so I was lucky to have good influence from the top down at a young age. And then as I got into weight training at about probably my late teens. And then I've been lucky to be around the right people, but I have, friends who they're like slamming 4 Mountain Dews before lunch, and you're just like, dude, it's crazy. Like the sugar is. And
see, I'm firmly in the bro culture, so a lot of my friends are gym junkies and stuff, and they're living off energy drinks. But luckily these days it's mostly sugar free, so they're not going to get diabetes. What it's going to do to your teeth and your guts in the long run, well, we'll find out. But it's just wild what's considered normal. It's like people are like, oh, I need to have my energy drinks or my pre-workout or whatever just to go to the gym. And I'm like, listen, if you need anything, just drink a black coffee. Yeah. And suck it up.
That was like when I think I was, God, I was in my teens. Like I was super young. No, maybe I was in my 20s by that point. So this is a crazy story. I wound up taking, I think it was my early 20s. I took a National Academy of Sports Medicine course to get my personal training. And in that they were like, yeah, if you're fatigued, the best thing you can have is a black cup of coffee. But in my training class, sitting next to me was Jay Cutler, who,
Whoa, what?
yeah, but it was before he started winning. It was like he was huge, but it was before he was like before he went like supersonic.
Get him on
And
the podcast.
and I would love to. I haven't. He wouldn't even know who I was. He wouldn't even known. I mean, there was like 300 people in the class. He wouldn't have even known I was in there.
Man, that's cool though.
But yeah, totally random. But I remember they were like, "Oh, this guy's like poised to go on to win. Can you give us a flex?" And I was like, "Dude, this guy is flipping huge. He was huge before he was like a national champion." Crazy.
Wild.
But yeah, I see the dietary thing it's hard. I mean, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to get, even knowing all this stuff, it's hard to get the right amount of proteins in. And it's just having a good schedule. And like the other night, I wound up missing a meal, going to happy hour, having a drink. And it's like, but I've
It's
also,
balanced too.
it's balanced. You're like, all right, I just got to work a little harder tomorrow, make this up.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like if you have an already pretty balanced, healthy-ish diet, your ability to deal with variances and changes in stress and like dietary stress. Like, I had to go to the U.S. For a couple weeks last year, in July, I think it was, and it was just me and my 4-year-old son. We went we went to visit family because my grandpa's been pretty sick, and so we're like, okay, well, we might not have another chance. So it's like, okay, booking a flights, just me and my kid. My wife and the baby were staying home, and it's like you're on the road, man. It's the first time I had McDonald's in like 10 years. Coming back from the airport, hadn't had anything but like the worst airplane food for like 24 hours. I think it took, God, it was wild. It was like 35 or 40 hours to get there and like 51 to get back. Like, so tons of transit time. And I was like, oof, whatever, we eat what we can find. And it's the first time I had like a quarter pounder in I don't know how long. And, I was like, just embrace it. I'm like, quarter pounder, small fries, small Coke. Oh, the taste of America. So good. And I was like, it was like, did that do anything to me? No, man. It's like, go out and eat something like that once a week or every couple weeks. It's not going to kill you, but you have to leave it at that. It can't be your normal. And so if you're normally, doing pretty well, you can deal with that and you can survive that, and it's going to do nothing to you. But when that's your normal, like it kills you.
Yeah,
literally.
What's the rule? It needs to be the exception to the rule, not the rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Good on you for embracing it. I like, if I have to, it's like, I so begrudgingly do it because it also just makes me feel terrible. Like I usually will get pretty sick from putting not great stuff into my system.
I'm pretty adaptable. I'm kind of like I'm like a tractor. I'm not like a high quality sports car. I don't need the high octane stuff. Occasionally I can just eat whatever. Cause I've done a lot of traveling, and it's just like, okay, well, this is what I get. Sometimes I get food, sometimes I don't. If I can, I'm just going to try and get as much protein in me as possible from any source. Yeah. I'll adapt. And then when I'm done, I'll go back to living off of yogurt, fruit, meat, and veg. It's like, that's my normal.
That's what, if I eat that, like the yogurt, meat, and vegetables, I'm pretty darn good, and lots of coffee. And I can do like certain protein shakes and things like that. But if I start having like really rich foods, it jacks my system up. My stomach does not like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not good with like real. Actually, I find that, and this might just be aging. I find that like real heavy, like slow cooked tomato and meat based stuff like just sits real hard now, and it's like I get heartburn. I'm like, what have I become? So it's just it's yogurt, fruit, meat, veg most of the time, potato and rice. Keep it simple, and then occasionally indulge in something that makes the soul feel good, but even if it doesn't necessarily make the heart feel good.
I had a piece of pizza the other day. Man, that was pretty epic.
It was good. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They,
pizza's one of those things I never really crave, but when it happens, we have a excellent local pizza place that does like has one of those real nice rotating wood fire ovens. It's sourdough based. The crust is just amazing, and it's like that makes it worth it. But like Pizza Hut, I would just
oh, I would rather cut off my
never.
head. No,
It's awful.
there's a
Domino's.
place. It's called Star Pizza, and they make a cornbread crust, and it's a deep,
Ooh.
like a deep dish, and so it's not a regular crust. It is so freaking good. Like to me, it is so good. That's like if I can eat that instead of any dessert in the world, I would eat that. Like,
So everybody has something like that. Like this is the challenge with food. Like we're sitting here trying to talk about being healthy, and then get off on talking about all the things that aren't healthy that are so good.
the one
But
thing.
yeah, it's like the one thing for me, the one like I would give up any other. Like I don't eat a lot of junk food, but like I would give up just about anything except poutine. Now poutine is a French Canadian dish, and it's just chips like fries with gravy and fresh cheese curds, like the squeaky cheese. We got a food van near us that does it, and they import their cheese curds from the U.S. And like that is my soul food. Like it's such a simple thing, and I like do home cooked versions of it too, like where you fry up your own potatoes or like oven bake them, and you make like a homemade gravy with like little chunks of fresh cheese in it, maybe some pulled meat.
Yeah.
Exquisite. Like it can be a healthy thing because it's potatoes, beet gravy. Like it's just fine. And then there's like the fast food version where it's McDonald's style fries and cheap gravy and stuff, and it's delicious that way. But that is the soul food that I would eat forever. It would be my last meal. Amazing. But this is the challenge with food, is that it's very emotional and it's very social.
Yeah.
It's the same with alcohol as well. And we get this connection that we can't break, where it's like food always has to be soul food. Food always has to have this emotional attachment. And one of my 6 habits for eating like an adult is don't eat your emotions. Like there's a difference between like if you've ever been out for a big hike or like a backpacking trip, and you've been out for days eating slop out of a bag, and then you get that first hot real food meal, a burger, steak, fish and chips, whatever it is, something that is hearty and warm and real. The way that makes you feel is incredible. And there's this huge emotional attachment, but you're going into that not trying to negate negative emotions, but it elicits a purely positive effect. The opposite is most people use food to treat chronically negative emotions. They're chronically medicating themselves with food. And it's the same stuff all the time. It's like, oh, I got to have my bottle of wine at night. I got to eat my block of chocolate. I got to have my beers. I got to eat my donuts, whatever it is. It's always junk food. And it still gives you this like this little taste of this like primal soul food experience. The exceptionally hungry hunter-gatherer who finally takes down the mammoth and gorges themselves. Like there's this primal monkey brain effect of food that we're always trying to get. But, now we have that mammoth on every street corner, dipped and fried in oils and covered in salt and sugar. Sure. And so, it's almost impossible for our monkey brains to go, oh, we probably shouldn't be indulging this every single day. And that emotional connection and that feeling it gives us is something that's essential to our nature. But it takes a lot more. I hate to say it's all like discipline and control, but it's more habit. It's, like if you don't go to those shops, if you don't buy those foods in the shop, you don't eat them at home.
Yeah.
So that's more of a planning thing. That's more of a habit thing. But we're still seeking that that emotional, deep-seated soul food experience every day. And it doesn't end up giving you that. And it becomes this sort of addictive, emotional, medicating system of eating. And that's one of the hardest things for a lot of people to break, because they're like, I feel sad because my job sucks. And then I get home and I've earned a treat.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get to treat yourself every day. Like, it's not a treat if it's every day. If you're eating the same thing every day or every weekend, well, it's your diet. That's just your diet.
That's
true.
true.
Your diet is chocolate, wine, and pasta. It's not a treat because treats are occasional earned
Good
things.
point. Yeah.
And it becomes a sort of self-perpetuating system of emotional fulfillment through food until it basically becomes almost an addictive process. I hate to say it is addictive, but it's similar. Because what's the foul language rules on this podcast?
Yeah, if it comes to mind, go for it.
Because the comparison I always see is like I've had friends who've had very serious addiction issues, and they'll always say, you know, like people say sugar's addictive, people say carbs or junk food's addictive, but they've never seen someone suck a dick for potato chips. You know, like, is it really addictive? It's not heroin, man. It's potato chips. It's chocolate. So it's more habitual. It's more of a self-medicating thing than it is true addiction. But it's very similar in how we behave around it to an extent.
Yeah, you're right. Like we say it's addictive, and which it is. Like on the brain it's addictive, but it's a different compulsion to do that thing. The reality is that my whole family knows I got zero self-control. Like there's a cabinet for the kids to put their junk food in that I know that I can't go into, because if I do, I will just eat it. And so it's in a different place, so I don't see it.
So that's the planning and that's the habit formation around it to create that barrier, because you know that now. So many people don't know that. They don't realize that yet.
Oh, dude, I'm bad. Like if there's cereal, like my son will leave like a box of cereal out. I'm not exaggerating. I can eat the whole box by the end of the night. Like just, yeah, like once that little switch goes on, it's like, oh, it's a cheat meal. And then it's like, well, it's a cheat night. Just like,
yes.
And like,
it's a cheat day. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like,
you know, maybe it's the week.
Yeah, I don't do cheat days. I've never been able to, because I don't have like a really good off switch. But my rule is, like, if I don't want to eat it, don't buy it. Like, don't bring it into the house. Like, if I don't bring it into the house, it's not going to be a problem.
That's the conversation I have to have with so many people. It's like, oh, I accidentally ate a block of chocolate tonight. It's like, well, why is it in your house?
Exactly.
Like, don't go grocery shopping hungry, and then don't buy it. If you want a treat, go out and make it something special. Spend 3 times as much having someone else prepare your meal, but don't keep the junk in your house, because you will eat it.
You know what? The other thing I learned, I don't know if you have Costco where you are, but I've learned to not go to Costco hungry, because we come back with like $600 worth of food, and you're like, I don't think we needed all this.
Yeah. We have some Costco's on the mainland, because Tasmania is an island. We're not a real big place, but we don't get some of those big chains down here.
Are you connected? I'm totally ignorant to it, so pardon my geographical ignorance. But is it connected by bridge or ferries? How do you get back to the mainland?
No. Okay, so you can fly. So it's about 150 kilometers of ocean between the south coast of Australia and the top of Tasmania.
Pretty far.
And where I live in Hobart is the bottom of Tasmania. So Melbourne's the next big city near us. So you can take a ferry over to the top of the island. It takes 10 to 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
And then if you were to drive from the top to the bottom, so say you land in Devonport, you know, it's like 3.5 hours to where we are. Or it's a 1-hour flight.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we're pretty remote.
It sounds like it. It sounds pretty amazing though too.
It's cool, but it's almost literally the farthest you can fly from where I grew up in Minnesota.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I would imagine. I mean,
because you have to go from the Midwest to the West Coast to the East Coast of Australia, either Sydney or sometimes you go into Melbourne, but it's usually Sydney. And if it's from Sydney, it's going to be another 3 hours south that you fly. If you keep going south, you hit Antarctica. Like we're almost exact opposite side of the globe.
Jeez. Well, you definitely one-upped me. I was like, well, I can move to the furthest point and stay in the U.S. You were like, well, I can move to the furthest point, period.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. That's why it's so hard to get back and visit, and it can take like if you get from here to Minnesota in 24 hours, you're doing great. But usually it's 30 plus.
Jeez.
Sometimes, like last time, 50, 51, because we had a 20 something hour layover in LA.
Oof. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, those layovers can be just absolutely brutal. But man,
Yeah.
yeah, and even traveling, I know for me, it completely disrupts. It disrupts everything. It disrupts my routine, my schedule, my even your simple like sleep wake schedule, your eat schedule. One
Oh yeah.
hack that I learned, I'm sure you know about it, but we flew to the Philippines recently, and like super exhausted, like just lagged from being on the plane for all those hours. We literally got our bags, put them in the room, put on workout clothes, and went to the gym.
Yeah.
It's the best way to overcome jet lag. It's crazy. Just do a hard workout.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you have the facilities and stuff like that in sunlight, like if you can
Yeah.
land somewhere new and it's daytime, like get out in the sun as much as you can to help reset your circadian rhythms.
Yeah, it was the first time I've done that. Like I'll usually weave in the workouts, but not typically like beeline to the gym. And it was weird. Like I heard about it from somewhere, or read it somewhere, and I was like, I'm gonna give it a try. Totally works.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, that's what our bodies are designed to do, and it's just something that we do during waking hours, and
Yeah.
so it does help reset things.
Yeah, it's really, with the food and the diet, it just it's going back, it's kind of like resetting to the way our bodies should be running, and then doing the things that our body naturally, there's a natural cycle and rhythm that the body wants to do. And if we just get out of our own way and tap into it, and to your point earlier, the it was like in the infrequency of getting that the mammoth
Yeah.
and cap was an infrequent thing that was a celebrated event in the tribe. But now you can have three of those a day,
Yeah.
and that's just not normal.
No, it's not, and that actually kind of comes back to the idea that people are uncomfortable being hungry.
Yeah.
Like hungry is like this terrible state that people can't stand, and with the average person being overweight or obese, like that's average in the West now. uh Being hungry isn't a bad thing, but
Mm.
we're so afraid of it, and it probably comes back to our our ancestry, our history. Being hungry was a bad thing. Being hungry means we need to get things sorted and we need to find food,
Mm.
and now we don't, but we're still functioning off of these very ancient systems.
I'm curious, what's your opinion of 3 meals a day, which that seems like a more
So
modern construct.
yeah, I mean it's a pretty common thing across civilizations. The thing is, it depends. It depends on what you want to do. So if we're looking for like optimal body composition and maintaining or creating as much muscle mass as possible, you need about 20 grams of high quality protein, which ends up being about two grams of leucine, to elicit muscle protein synthesis. So your body is going to build muscle when it has enough of these nutrients,
Mhm.
protein, high quality protein. So you need a certain amount before it triggers this building effect. And so if your job or your goal is to try and build as much muscle or maintain as much, you want to elicit this response as many times as possible during the day. So minimum 20 grams of protein. I think the you get diminishing returns after like 5 or 6 up to 7 doses across the day before you don't really get any major benefit. So basically anywhere between 3 and 5 of these MPS or muscle protein synthesis events across the day seems to be sort of the ideal, which means you need to get that much protein in that many times. We do have some more recent studies that show like if you take in a larger amount of protein, there's no top end of the amount of protein your body can use, and you remain in an anabolic state for an extended period of time. How long? How does that compare to multiple muscle protein synthesis events? don't really know.
Hmm.
We just know that it is generally more effective to have multiple muscle building events across the day, which means eating multiple times. Because anytime you're not actively building, you're in what's called anabolism, you're anabolic, you're catabolic, in catabolism, meaning your body is constantly breaking things down, recycling, reusing, excreting, and then we have to balance it out through building. So if you want to optimize body composition, you want to eat more times a day, specifically with decent amount of protein each time you do that. That is going to optimize muscle mass, which is one of the most useful things we can invest in our body for long-term health and long-term capacity. Does that mean a certain number of meals a day is necessary for general health? No, not at all. Like if you're meeting your nutrient needs through one meal a day, you're probably going to be fine. You're probably going to be lean. You're probably going to be healthy. This sort of segues into conversations around things like fasting and intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
All the benefits of fasting, when we look at them and equate for total calorie intake, you get the exact same benefits by just not eating in a surplus. So if you fast for 16 hours and then you consume 2,000 calories during the 8 hours, well, if you consume 2,000 calories across your normal feeding window of 12 to 16 hours, you get the same results for health and longevity.
Really?
Yeah. So the intermittent fasting and the feeding window thing can be a very useful tool to help people moderate their food intake. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a magic pill. You don't get anything special from that as long as the calories are equated and nutrients are equated. Some people do better with smaller meals, but what we find is the average person who's not paying attention is the more meals they eat, the more they eat. And the other side of this is the less people eat on average, the more likely they are to binge. And this is something I see so much, especially with women. And I've worked with a few men who are really into intermittent fasting, but somehow can't seem to lose that last 20 kilos. Well, it's like, okay, cool. You didn't eat for 4 days, and then you ate 10,000 calories a day for 3 days. You just continually overconsume. You just do it in a smaller amount of time. And I work with a lot of women who will be like, I don't eat anything. And you look at their food journal and you start calculating everything. It's like, cool, you eat 900 calories a day, Monday through Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you eat 5,000 calories a day while you're still in a surplus. So we have this, like, if you're not paying attention and you're not equating, the frequency or the timing of food doesn't make as big a difference as the quantity, no matter how you eat it.
That's
and so, yeah, it's interesting because everyone's trying to find like some secret way of eating that makes all the difference, and the biggest difference is actually just paying attention to what you put in your mouth.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a trainer years ago, and similar. Like, I'm like, I can't put on muscle. I can't put on muscle. He's like, you know what? Just for the next 3 days, write down literally everything you eat.
Yes.
And then we looked at it, and I was like, oh, now I know why I'm not putting on muscle.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I do food journal, 7-day food journal with everybody who starts up, whether they're trying to gain weight, lose weight, whatever. We do 7 days. You take a picture of everything you eat and drink.
Yeah.
And it's so eye-opening for people because usually I'll just be like, what do you notice? Or like I'll do, because if I'm doing it purely online, I'll do it through video and I'll just read off. I'll read off what they've eaten because people are like, oh, I don't eat much, or eat mostly healthy. And okay, all right, let's look at your food journal. I'm like, okay, coffee, pasta, toast, chocolate, wine, coffee, pasta, rice, wine. And they're like, oh, it's like, yeah, well, you don't eat anything until 2 p.m, and then you just eat carbs and alcohol for the rest of the day. And it's like, no wonder you need 6 coffees a day. No wonder you can't lose any weight. Like you're doing this whole like, I'm not hungry, but I'm actually in need of nutrients and food. So I'm living off caffeine, and now all of a sudden I'm starving, and now I can't stop myself from eating. And then you repeat that every day of the week. Yeah. And it's so wild when you put that on paper and people are like, oh, right. Yeah. I see that now.
It's funny. I mean, humans are just really good at deleting information. Otherwise we'd go crazy. And when you just think about your diet, you delete a lot of information. You're like, you overlook it, but you'll remember. If you want a good diet, you'll just remember the good stuff. You're like,
yes,
no,
that's right.
I totally had a salad the other day. It was amazing. And you're like, yeah, but I forgot about the 4 cups of dressing I put on it.
Yeah, and it's such a funny conversation to have. Oh, so often with people, and they'll be like, "Yeah, I want to lose, 20 kilos or 50 pounds, whatever. I just can't seem to lose it." I'm like, okay, cool, cool. Well, we'll look at your exercise and stuff. How's your diet? Oh, my diet's really good. It's great. Like I have such an excellent diet. It's like, how much weight did you say you need to lose? Like, how can those two things go together? Why are you here if you think your diet's great, but somehow you haven't been able to lose 20 kilos in 10 years? Like there's just this disconnect, and people kind of have to, and you can't just tell people stuff. You have to show it.
Oh,
You have to get them to realize it.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do those food journals, as soon as you write down the numbers and you equate all the calories and the nutrients, they're like, oh, I live off of pasta and wine. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man, I've been doing sales a long time, and I learned a long time ago, it matters who says it. If you get them to be like, "Oh yeah, that is a lot of pasta, isn't it?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Then it clicks.
Yeah.
But
And that's who says it is so important, but like getting them to realize it themselves is really like the most important thing. And it's funny because I teach the personal training courses, and one of the first lessons I tell my students is people have to get to a point of wanting to change on their own, and your friends and your family will never listen to you. No matter how right you are, your friends and family will never listen. Someone else has to tell them how to make changes, or they have to reach a point themselves. So always just refer them to someone else. They're just going to be the biggest pain in your ass, because you can't train your spouse. You can't train your family. They just won't listen.
Actually, what's really funny this is like way back in the day when I was a trainer, is family would come to me and like, "Hey, I want to work with you." And I'd be like, "Amazing. I look forward to it. This will be great." And I would literally, it's funny because I just remember this, but I'd be like, "Write down everything you're eating for the next 2 weeks, then we'll meet." And no one ever called me again. It was amazing. It was like the best filter.
I'm going to use that. That is the best like gate. Like you just put that little barrier up, like, cool, no problem. I will happily, I'll give you a sweet discount. It's gonna be great, but you have to do this. I
do this one thing.
Do
this is all you have to do. And I swear to God, they'll just be like,
yeah.
they just vanish from the conversation, and you're like, great. That just
I've got a new group of PT students starting on Monday, and I'm gonna give them that one. I'm just like, listen, this is how you manage family now.
It's weird. It's one of those magic bullets, and not. It's funny. I'm thinking about what you do, and I've had agents reach out to me, and they're like, "Hey, I'm struggling in business. I need to take it to the next level." Like, great. Write down everything you're doing every 15 minutes for an entire 3 work days, and then it's like, move to the couch, watch Netflix, watch some YouTube, and you're like, yeah, it's weird. I can't understand why your business isn't doing well.
Yeah. Oh, those 15-minute audits are rough.
They're rough, right? It sounds like you've been forced to do that before.
Well, it's one of those things that like, because I've got a busy brain. I got a fast brain. It's a busy brain, and so it's like, when something needs to be done, I have to do it all right now. And if something doesn't have to be done, I won't be able to do it because there's something else that has to be done. But then if my brain goes, well, actually we kind of need to focus on this, so I'll be like, I'll start off looking at my emails, and then 3 hours later I'm like, so I've redone all my ads and I've gone through all my marketing funnels. Clients. And I'll be like, okay, clients. And then it'll be like, all of a sudden I'll be like, oh no, I need to shoot all these exercise videos. And so I'll find myself doing that. And so every time I look at my time, like, I'm not very good at scheduling the 15 minutes. It's kind of like, these are essential blocks that have to be done across the week. They'll get done, but they're going to get done when it's time.
Yeah.
And so when I look at those 15-minute things, it's like bouncing all over the place, but the stuff gets done.
All right. So I just learned this trick from Susie Adamson, who is on my show, who's a real estate coach, but totally applicable to what you do. She, on her computer, has, I believe she's using a Mac, but she basically turns it on so the computer every 15 minutes will tell you the time. And it forces you to be like, basically like, oh shit, I need to get this done. And it pulls that part of
Interesting.
your brain back. So
Yeah.
if you are inclined, I would say give that a try.
Yeah. I'll check that out. That's actually a really clever memory hack.
Yeah, it's one of those that, because I do the same thing, which I feel like most people who are really heavily drawn to the high intensity, like athletic endeavors, there's like a layer of ADHD.
Oh yeah.
And especially like with jujitsu, it's like if you're not on the mat and you're not focused on your opponent, you're getting your arm broke off.
That's
And
right.
so you're like hyper focused. But then when you get home and you're like, I got to pay this bill, and it takes you 4 hours because you've been
Yes.
like doing laundry, but it's all piled up on the floor. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's
and
yeah,
instead you're
that's
outside with the kids.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Anyways, it's one
ADHD.
of those things that because it pulls you back to be like, oh shit, I need to take care of this thing within this window of time. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
hopefully it works. Let me know.
Yeah, check it out.
Dude, this was really fun. I really enjoyed this conversation. I
Oh yeah,
appreciate
time
your
flew.
time. So Josh, if people are inclined to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Well, you can find all my information and free resources on my website, strongforlife.online. So, or you can just Google Strong for Life Online Coaching. I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, everything, just as Coach Josh Wood.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Josh.
No worries.
Wow, I totally fumbled that at the very end.
Thanks, Sean.
Good to see you.